The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Welcome to TaxLinked's latest webinar. Today we have a topic which is a little bit not very mainstream, I would say. It's something a little bit outside of the box, and we're very excited to be doing this. I think it'll be very interesting, and it'll provide different perspectives, I guess, on how you can improve your business or help your business performance. We're talking basically about self-sabotage of the business person and the unconscious causes and strategic remedies for this. Just before we introduce our expert, let me get some admin issues out of the way. Remember that this webinar is being recorded. We will have an audio recording of the webinar shortly after the webinar is done. We'll also have a full transcript. That's going to take us a couple weeks, but we'll have a transcript for all of those of you who'd rather read about this than listen to it. Also, we are offering CPD credits, 1 CPD credit for those people who are listening to this webinar. Remember that we can track whether you actually sat through the entire webinar and whether you've been paying attention. So if you want the CPD credits, make sure that you're paying attention and you're actually here with us. Also, if you have any questions for Benedetto as you listen to the lecture and to the presentation, on the GoToWebinar control panel, you could actually submit questions. Submit the questions, and I will make sure to pass them on to Benedetto and incorporate them somehow into the discussion. So without further ado, I'd like to hand it on to Benedetto, who's going to introduce himself. He's going to provide us with some theoretical background on this topic. And we will also then cover 5 questions that we have here that were submitted by members and also that were formulated by Benedetto. So thank you very much, Benedetto. The floor is all yours.
Okay, thank you very much, Matteo, for this introduction, and welcome everyone to this webinar. First of all, just very little words about myself. I am in Rome. I am an Italian business consultant. Before this, I've been in several different jobs as a marketing consultant, financial analyst, and credit risk manager, and of course a psychotherapist. My theoretical background, further than the graduation in business management at the Luis Guido Carli University here in Rome, include a very extended and deep study of psychology, and of course including personal training in psychotherapy that led me at the end, after the required certifications and the exams at state level, university level, to get all the qualifications to exercise this, to practice this profession. So to get straight to the point and to the topic of this webinar, first of all, I would like to make a terminological clarification. I use the word self-sabotage to describe a precise and observable behavior in human beings that, if it is harmful in general, when we go down to business, it's even more so. And so when we are speaking about an entrepreneur, a professional, or a top manager, self-sabotage has generally a much wider economic and social breach, of course. What I don't mean by self-sabotage, I don't mean self-harm, self-restraint, lack of self-esteem, fear of the new, of success, of failure, of judgments, and so on. I do not consider troubles and complications created by the subject as natural facts to counter with behavioral strategies. Here, by self-sabotage, I intend exactly the following. It is operating a project as an alibi or compensation to another drive which is non-functional and non-economic for the subject, with damages in the economic, social, and existential areas. So it's quite different. Even though this is not natural to have this phenomenon, we see that it's quite frequent. The fact is that human nature includes the capacity for functional choices, and we see that what we call egoism is at the same time the basic motivation that moves the human being and the criterion with which evaluate the functionality of choices and behaviors moment by moment. Now, I believe that it's better to define egoism in my understanding. This term is not an ethic meaning, but is what I indicate as the basic vital function that we can observe in nature, and that in human beings is the choice criterion to evaluate moment by moment what is the best. It's the same criterion that our cells use to discriminate between what is good to be metabolized in their and to let that has to be let in to make the correct process, and what to let out. The same criterion, the same kind of logic. But when we are speaking about the choice of the best for us, what is this best? In comparison of what? The comparison is not with an opinion, an ideology, or even about economic ideology or opinion, or a religion. The comparison indeed is with the individual natural or nature project. And what is this nature project in the human being? The nature project is the basic principle that makes the individual's identity, both for the person itself and in any relationship. So this is the introduction that I believe it is very important to do in order to give, let's say, some references and to go ahead with the questions that we already received from our attendees.
Excellent. Thank you for that introduction, Benedetto. We're glad to have you here covering this topic for us. So let's get started with, I guess, our question and answer portion. We have 5 questions, as I mentioned previously. So the first question is, just to get us started, what are the main descriptions and classifications of self-sabotage? I guess get us started with the descriptions, and then we'll move on to the classifications. Benedetto?
Yeah. To describe self-sabotage is anything that we do against our own interest. I would like to give again the definition of self-sabotage as I did before, in order to refresh the several concepts. Operating a project as an alibi or compensation to another drive which is non-functional and non-economic for the subject, with damages in the economic, social, and existential areas. The classifications of self-sabotage may lead to refer to the ways of in which people actuate self-sabotaging strategies. Some of the most common ways are self-sabotage that is based on affection, when the person gives prevalence to affective aspects, and everything will be managed according to how the subject loves and gives affection to something or to an idea or to someone. The great ones have mostly lost out of affection or trust in the loved one. When it's given trust or affection to someone that is out of the business logic. We will see an example of that at the end of our webinar. The affection, in addition is something that ruins the logic of business and destroys those who have the ability to produce money. This is what we can observe the most of the time. When the affection logic prevails, the business one, we assist to lots of damages. Sex is another way of actuating self-sabotaging. Aggressiveness, when, for example, competition is made only to prevaricate or to for vengeance, and the economy is used as a form of humiliation of the other, and it is not in the natural logic of man. The natural logic of man is cooperating, is coming together, is to synergize. And so when we assist to such behavior, we can always foresee a result, a negative result, and a very negative one. Pride also is a way of self-sabotage, and when the entrepreneurial motivation, for example, so when I want to start a business or I want to have success, for example, just to appear, not to be, in order to demonstrate that I am capable, I make a lot of efforts and to reach the goal of success, but I don't have any result. This makes, of course, produce frustration, and aggressiveness as well. So these are the main classifications of self-sabotage, which I can list with.
Perfect, Benedetto. Thanks for covering the question. Now, the next question, again, dealing with the process of self-sabotage, is how does self-sabotage work, and what are its origin and process?
Okay. First of all, the origin and the process. The source of self-sabotage is in the unconscious. That the unconscious, we have to define it, of course, which is the removed knowledge of our nature project because of the defense mechanisms. The result of this removal, which actually the translation of removal in the psychological language is repression, but actually in the psychoanalytic and analytical psychology frame, repression is a different, just a different defense mechanism from removal. So I use remove and removal to mean what in the vocabulary is translated as repression. So the source of self-sabotage is the unconscious, and the result of the removal coming from the defense mechanisms are dynamic and autonomous psychological structures that which are the complexes that interfere the communication between our consciousness and our nature project, which is our inner intelligence. It is the intelligence of our own life. So our rationality process is based not on a correct set of information, but on an interfered set of information. In fact, we don't have accurate information about the best choice of the moment, because our inner intelligence, our natural project, always is capable to detect the best choice for ourselves, just like the cell is. But we don't have the information in our consciousness in order to see what are these information. There are always interfered information, so our information are not accurate. Of course, this happens with the best will and genuine good faith, but the fact is that we make decisions that produce inconvenient facts. So, because inaccurate informations produce, of course, erroneous decisions and negative results. So when it happens, it's just because the interference operated and the program, the self-sabotaging program, is operated. Just an example of affection. The affection way of self-sabotaging, or better, self-sabotaging ourselves by for affection. If you see that a lot of companies, many, and mainly small and medium enterprise, we say here in Italy, for example, the grandfather creates, the father maintains, the sons destroy. This means that these people has tried to leave a legacy to their son and the grandson, but without considering the fact that probably the person that should have led the company, should have managed the company, was not the right person, but only because it was his or her son or her daughter or the grandson or granddaughter. There was like a divine right to take the steer of the company and to try to manage it. But the evidence is that this is not the right way of choosing the person that will continue what the first, or in our case, the grandfather created. This is a very good general example, if it is not a specific one. But everyone, I believe that every one of us, if thinks about similar situations, can understand that the reason of the declining, for example, of a large group or a company can be traced in such a let's say it's an ideology, according to me, because it's the family ideology. So, and it's cannot be discussed in some way. But the results are this one. In this case, for example, what is the point? That let's say the second generation entrepreneur may understand who is the person, the right person to manage the company after himself, but he gives more credit to his convictions, to that family ideology, and instead of, for example, looking for a very good manager outside the company or within the company, where probably there is someone that has grown up understanding everything about the company, the processes, the markets, the business model, etc., makes the choice of giving the command, the lead, to the son, because is his son, and there is the family link, the blood link. And this information of the blood, of the importance of the blood link, is just that superstructure that the autonomous structure, the stereotype and the complexes that interfere with the correct information, and also work in advance from the rational process. Because rationally speaking, that grandfather or that father is perfectly capable to understand that son or that grandson is not the right person, doesn't have the skills, the leadership skills, or even the expertise to lead the company. But there is prevails the structure which is autonomous from his rationality. So when he, for example, when he chooses the marketing manager, the CFO, or the production manager, no problem in looking in being capable of seeing in the person his quality or her qualities. But when it comes to choosing between the son or the grandson and another person, of course, the choice is obliged, because it's there is this kind of rigidity. We can project this kind of process in many other situations in business choices. For example, there is also the problem of pride. I remember a very important equity manager that it was clear that was not doing her job in to create value, but only to have success and make money, just for making money. So this is, and to demonstrate that she could help her family that left in her little hometown with a lot of problems, and she could arrive to earn a lot of money and help their family. Of course, since the aim and the objective was not a real one, a truthful one, she had made a lot of little mistakes along the way that at the end brought her to the disaster and to yes, a total disaster of her life, of her job, of her professional situation. So this is how it works, and what is the source of. So just to recap, is the source of the self-sabotage is the unconscious of the person, and these structures that operate in advance from the rationality. And the process, of course, is because we do not perceive reality in its whole accuracy, and therefore we miss or something about the information that we can get is changed.
Right. Excellent, Benedetto. I mean, it brought to mind, here in Cyprus, it's a small community, and a lot of the businesses are family businesses, and they're passed down from generation to generation. Of course, some of those businesses fail, and it's hard to break that kind of bloodline. It's hard to break those family relations, I guess. It's going to lead to resentment. It's going to lead to, all sorts of different troubles. But at the end of the day, it might be best for the company to someone from the outside to do that job. So it's interesting what you're saying, and I know we'll look into more of this moving forward. So our third question, I guess now we get more into how to detect whether people suffer from this self-sabotage, etc. So the question is there the possibility of detecting the presence of unconscious self-sabotaging strategies? At what stage can these be detected? And if so, what is the instrument to do so? So let's talk a little bit about,
Okay.
How can we detect whether these exist?
I see that we already 25 minutes have passed, so I will try to be effective but synthetic. Of course, yes, we can detect the presence of unconscious self-sabotaging strategies, but this can only be done via this kind of business consultancy. Why? Speaking about a business example, if you have an unbalanced debt to equity ratio, you already have placed the preconditions for troubles. And that in the best case can be bring to an hostile takeover. Now we have to understand why the situation is at that point. So why you arrive to have a debt to equity ratio which is unbalanced and is too risky, and what kind of wrong evaluations have been done and that led to the erroneous projection. So, and above all, why these erroneous evaluations have been done. Because I'm not interested about in the considerations like, oh, but I thought that that client would have paid me in time, or I couldn't think that that client would have failed, and so I don't have the liquidity now corresponding. I just have a credit. I cannot sell this credit because it's a junk credit, etc., etc. Okay, this is just too late to make these considerations, because I'm sure that despite all the common sense that we can apply in making decisions, there is also something more to understand, and this can be understood only by having personal psychotherapeutic encounters, because in this context the main instrument to get the information before before any fact has its evidence, its historical evidence, is dream interpretation. Because with the ontopsychological approach of dreams interpretation, which is very, very effective, it is possible to catch the whole self-sabotage dynamic from the unconscious premises to the effects that must be acknowledged as such. So as I was saying before, so without saying misfortune, suffered aggression, or imponderability of external variables, or something like that. What you are going to is already within your dreams. The dreams are like, I always say that is just like having the accounts of what will go on, not what is going on, what will go on, is to have assets and liabilities, profit and loss of what will go on. If you come to me with your assets, liabilities, and profit and loss, even though the last invoice was entered in the books yesterday, for me it's too late. Even though the last line of the bank account has been updated yesterday, it's already too late, because this is the story. And when we try to make any projection, we are just making fantasizing. Yes, we can use mega computers, artificial intelligence, which people call it intelligence, but it's just artificial calculation, and that's all. But the real intelligence, so the capability of reading inside reality, resides only in human beings, not in robots. It is possible, of course, to detect these strategies, and the only way is by studying your dreams, the dreams of the person. Of course, it's not something that can be done by anyone. There is a very, very long experience and before of that study, and but there are all the information. and the information that are coming, the dreams that are coming from a business person are mainly focused on the business, his or her business environment, business projects, business ambitions. And in a dream, there are always what the situation is. If there is a problem, what is the problem? Where is the problem? And also the way to solve it. Then of course, the expertise of the person, the expertise of the consultant, and the expertise of the other consultants that the business person may have are the historical instrument to create in practice the solution. What to, if I have to change an employee or a manager, or if I have to cancel a contract, of course there must be made a lot of technical actions in order to avoid, of course, bad consequences. So instead of doing something better, if I do if I make any decision and I implement any decision in the wrong way, of course it will bring it's stupid. It will bring in to further damages and to further troubles, further problems.
Excellent, Benedetto. Just listening to you, two questions came to mind. So just before we move on to our next questions, let me pose the two questions that I've been thinking of as I listen to you speak. Two questions came to mind. The first, I mean, many people don't remember their dreams. Is there an alternative to looking into the unconscious for those people who who don't remember their dreams or who have very vague recollections of their dreams? Is there another? Is there an alternative? And answer that, and then I'll ask the second question better.
Okay, go on. I will jot it down.
Okay, and and the second question is, when you're actually studying the dreams of a business person, how can you kind of separate the components? I mean, because the personal life of that business person also has a big say into what they're dreaming about. So how can you basically establish whether that dream is related to the business or whether it's related to their personal life? So those are my two questions.
Yeah. The first one is what to do when a person doesn't remember his or her dreams. When a person doesn't remember her or his the dreams, of course we are in a resistance situation, first of all. So there is already a situation of self-sabotage, because since the dreams are the basic information, the strategic basic information, when one doesn't remember dreams, it means that there is something that is doing against her or himself first. The alternative is trying, there is another technique in the ontopsychological approach that has the aim of getting in the same spot of which is the source of the dreams inside ourselves. So and it is called imagogy, which is a technique that must be, of course, made at least in a first stage with a technician. Then it could be also used by the business person alone, but before that some practice is needed, and a good knowledge of the instrument, and also a good let's say a good confidence with yourself is needed in order to get in touch with that part and to get the same kind of information. Of course, if there is a resistance, and so a difficulty of remembering the dreams, probably there would be also a difficulty in going inside and reaching that spot. So I don't remember about the case, neither studying on the case studies during my preparation, and also in my own experience, and also the one that I can tell about from my colleagues, that there is someone that at the end doesn't remember dreams. I have a lot of people that told me, I don't remember my dreams. Okay, it's not a problem. Just fix set the encounter, and as soon as they fixed the encounter, they started dreaming. Recently, I had a person that oh, I don't remember, I never remember my dreams. He came with 1 week dreams, just one for each day, one for each day. So we had a lot of material, and it was very, very interesting. Also for him, of course, first of all, because he couldn't believe himself that he started to remember so easily the dreams. The nature is economic, so there is no waste of information. If you don't know what to do with your dreams, probably you won't remember them also. And the second, can you repeat the second question, Matteo, please?
Yeah, that makes sense about the dreams. Thanks for covering that. My second question was more related to, okay, you have all this information coming from the dreams, and
okay,
how do you separate between
okay.
the business and the personal life, and where that information is coming from, basically? Yeah.
This question is very strictly connected with my last sentence. I mean that nature is economic, first of all. So being economic, nature through your dreams, your nature, the human nature through your dreams, first of all, speaks about your health, your biological situation, which is the basis in order to do anything else. Then it speaks about your economic and social situation. So if there are problems in your health and or in your business, in your economic and social I mean effective love relationships, there could be a problem related to your son or to your wife, to your partner, or even a friend. But it is indicated in the dream very precisely. If there are not any kind of problems, or if there is any trouble in the first two areas, then it starts the creativity possibility, the creativity chance. So only once that the first steps are in the correct situation under a biological, natural point of view, then it is open a possibility of having information about creativity, development, further success, and going ahead. Otherwise, there is no reason to give information for going in the space if you have your stomach with a ulcer. Before you have to resolve that problem, and a lot of times that problem is related to the way you face with things. So you have to solve that before, because otherwise you cannot go ahead. And even there is no reason. It's like that. It's like we are losing it in all our business units, in all our business areas. So let's open another one. It's stupid and it's useless. It's anti-economic. So nature works like that.
Excellent. Thanks for that. That clarifies things for me quite a bit. Thanks, Benedetto. Okay, we have 2 questions left, and we have about 20 minutes. Let's move on now to kind of the portion in which we try to correct these self-sabotaging attitudes. And the question is, how is it possible to correct a self-sabotaging attitude? What is needed to done to actually solve these issues?
Okay. Let's start back from the fact that there is an unconscious, and within it we find also these autonomous psychological structures and dynamic structures that operate in advance of the rational process. And in this sense, all the behavioral strategies that are sold as easy and miracle solutions reveal to be very ineffective, and also to increase the frustration and the sense of impotence of the individual. Why? Because, of course, if my rationality is not, let me say a strange word, but it's coming from Latin, it's not certiorate, I mean, not only certified, but certified and proved, any effort to behave in a different way consciously is anticipated by these structures. So I will be deviated, there will be something that won't work, or I will forget, or I will do in the wrong way. Because until there is an intentionality working behind my conscious intentionality, which is the intentionality of the complex, I cannot hope to be effective in my action, fully effective, of course. The results that I will have will be always suboptimal. So in the dream, it's possible to catch the whole dynamic, and this dynamic is what we use in our business consulting process to make the person in front of me, in front of us, to understand that a constant focus of this information that is in advance of any type of historical actuality is fundamental and indispensable. Because without that, we have no guarantee of being free from any self-sabotage strategy. Because if we can say that we have totally neutralized our complexes and stereotypes and reflexive matrix and monitor of deflection, we have reached the maximum that a person may let's say the whole consciousness. Okay, what in India or in some religions call, in the Buddhistic religion called nirvana. So the total awareness. But we cannot say that, and until we cannot say that, we have to have an accurate information. Otherwise, it's the same. I mean, for the life, it's just the same. For the nature, it's just the same. Nature and life, intended in the greatest sense, continuously make individuals. So if there is one that gets his or her life, and the other 1,000 that don't, it's just the same. The game goes on. So in order to correct this attitude, it is fundamental to have a continuous contact with this accurate information, and to learn how to read them. of course, it is not like being dependent from the relationship with a business consultant forever, because in the years, if you practice and study also a little bit, and you are inclined to and will to understand, and in let's say in several years you can become an expert of yourself further than your area of expertise. The two things are important in the same way: to be the best in your field, in your industry, and also to be a very good expert of your own reality. Without that, you can just teach, probably, your expertise, but not doing business.
Right. Excellent. Thank you, Benedetto. We have one final question, and I think you're afterwards going to provide us with some practical examples. So let's look at this last question. This one was actually submitted by one of our members.
Yeah.
The question goes, the group or community we are part of certainly helps shape our personality. If the external environment does not change, how effective can therapy be, or psychotherapy be, in reshaping some of the personality traits? Benedetto?
Yeah. Let's say this, as I said before, if a person changes its internal behaviors, it's capable also to change its relationships or to use the same relationships effectively. So the key is in the individual, it's not in the external environment. I know that many people say that if you change yourself, the world changes. But the problem is, do you know how to do that? What do you have to change? What is the criterion of the change? And how this can be done? How to do this tangibly in order to have concrete changes. The external environment is what we find. And of course, shapes a lot of our, let's say, also a part of our nature project. The point is that we cannot operate against. There is a fixed part of this nature project, and we cannot operate against this. Let's say it's the biological part. I want to make just a stupid example. If you drink gasoline, of course, in the best case you get sick. Otherwise you die, because you have subverted the biological order, introducing something inappropriate, something totally different from the system. So that we have a system crash, let's say. But there is another part of this project which is open, and it is capable of shaping itself, let's say, of shaping itself within the environment that it is around him or around her. And of course, we have around us, we have traditions, we have convictions, we have culture, we have a religion, a main religion, or several religions, and mainly we find ourselves in a family where all these, all these informations are already there, and we receive them. Let's say we suffer them because we are just coming into life and we don't know anything. We do not have any rational structure, and we start creating our rational structures after these influences that we receive from the the external environment, which is our family, first of all. But the point is that if we understand that all this information are not our nature, but are only a cultural or an external structure, let's say are the game's rules, and we can play with them, and we can win the game respecting our inner nature and also the external rules. So it's not a big deal. The fact that there are external structures, external rules. We can change ourselves, because if we say in a good situation in a certain environment, it's not changing that environment. Leaving Italy to Germany or whatever, but we have to understand how to play in a more convenient way our cards, our aces. And so in order to do that, we have to change the way that we process the information. First of all, if we have all and the accurate information, and the way we process them. So that's the point.
Excellent. Thank you, Benedetto, for that. We have about 10 minutes left. I know you wanted to provide us with some practical examples. So I guess by way of conclusion, if you want to, walk us through a few practical examples of how this process has helped, some of your clients or, some of the businesses you've worked for, that'll be useful, I think.
My example is, let's say, an example that everyone knows, because it is an historical one. Because of course, if I speak about my own experience, I could be inventing that. But I would like to tell about something that everyone in the world knows about. We were speaking about one of the ways of self-sabotaging ourselves, which is one of them is affection. I've already spoken about that. Speaking about the family legacy of a company. But let's speak about a sexual relationship that brought to a very, very large disaster for the whole humanity, let's say. We are speaking about Julius Caesar and Cleopatra. The affection of Julius Caesar for Cleopatra is at the basis of the Idi di Marzo assassination. After the conquest of Egypt, Caesar made decisions having public effects, but using a private logic that was based on affection and sex. I don't know if everyone knows about that, but after Caesar and Cleopatra had Caesarione as a son, Caesar called Cleopatra to come in Rome, and there were celebrations like for the welcoming of an emperor, of an empress. Of course, the Roman people lived that event as a big betrayal, because we don't have to forget that Julius Caesar was Rome in a political, military, and economic sense. So it was just like a submission of the men, of the public men, Julius Caesar to Cleopatra. What is that? If Julius Caesar was with Cleopatra, had 10 sons in Egypt, and that's all, and Julius Caesar went on visiting Cleopatra, although having Calpurnia in Rome as a wife, as the official wife, no one would have said one word. The jealousy of Brutus against Cesarione, it's just a metropolitan myth, a metropolitan legend. No, it's not true. The problem is that he used a private logic being a public symbol. So he publicized his own private behavior, or let's say made a preeminence of his own private affection on the public square, on the public scene. And that provoked this very, very disastrous reaction in the people of Rome and, of course, in the conjurates. There is a very interesting part of the life of Caesar told by Svetonio in his Life of Caesar, because Svetonio tells about two dreams. One of Caesar is himself, and one from Calpurnia, his wife. The night before the Idi di Marzo, so the 12th of March that year, Julius Caesar dreamt of flying over the clouds and shaking the hand of Jupiter. So this means that Julius Caesar perceived that he was going to go in another dimension, in the dimension out of life. So it should have been a very, very strong warning for him. Furthermore, Calpurnia, the same night, dreamt about the fact that the roof, the top of the house where they were, went down, ruined down, and that Caesar was killed in her arms. So these two dreams are, if we could have the chance of listening to Caesar, of course, everyone know about the fortune teller, let's call it like that, met Caesar just when he was going to the Curia of Pompeo, where he was killed then, which is not the Roman Senate, the place where Caesar was killed, is the Pompeo's Curia, which is in Largo Argentina today in Rome. So this fortune teller met Caesar and warned him not to go to the Curia that day. But Caesar already had his own information. So this is I think a very explicit example of self-sabotage. One could think, yes, but it is the history. No, it's just a man, Julius Caesar, a man that had made his mistakes. Other mistakes were made by Mark Antonio in the same sense, but since Mark Antonio was much more stupid than Julius Caesar, his story is much shorter. Augustus didn't make the same mistakes of Julius Caesar and Marco Antonio, of course, because he already had the experience of his predecessors and didn't fall in the same trap. But anyway, Julius Caesar, the self-sabotaging of Julius Caesar in the relationship with Cleopatra could have been very well detected during his relationship with Cleopatra through his dreams, but at the end he could have also avoided his assassination, at least that day, because probably someone would have tried to do the same in the days later on, in the first favorable occasion, but at least that day he could have avoided that terrible death that day. Just being capable of understanding his dream. In the Bible, it is written, "Who knows his night knows his life."
Excellent. Thank you, Benedetto, for that great example. we can wrap up now. Do you have any concluding remarks just to kind of wrap things up for us, and then we'll get some admin issues out of the way and say goodbye? A nice tight summary of what we've been discussing?
Yes, of course. Just to recap a little bit this long list of concepts that I've tried to open to the understanding of the attendees. Let's say this. Self-sabotaging is something that we do not, because we are bad or we are stupid. It's just the fact that we cannot count on a straight and transparent rationality. This is because we have received an education, we received a way of behaving, and of course we have considered that as the only truthful, the only true, the only way of looking at things, at ourselves mainly. So the image that we have about ourselves is very important, and we have to learn to make all this a little bit more relative. To do so, we have to know in what direction we should move our acknowledgement, and where we can get accurate information. This is our unconscious. We can get this information from our unconscious, and the instrument to do so is the dreams interpretation. Without dreams interpretation, we can make all the maths that you want. I am very good at it, but it's just a Sudoku, let's say, an exercise, because it's worthless. There would be much more to say about all the topic, and I hope that I raised the attendees' interest in exploiting this consulting approach to create real and durable economic and social value, because this should be the only purpose of doing business, being a leader in the social environment or in the economic one. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Benedetto. That was very eye-opening and revealing. I'm sure our members will enjoy what you said, and hopefully, some of them will actually get in touch to take this a step further. So before we wrap up, I will get some admin issues out of the way. We have recorded this webinar. The recording should be available within the next several days. We'll also have a full transcript, which will take us a bit longer, but we'll email everyone once that is ready, and you can read all about what was said today. Also, if you want your CPD credits, make sure to get in touch with us, and we will put together your certificate and mail it to you, email it to you. Also, if you have any follow-up questions for Benedetto, if anything crosses your mind tonight, tomorrow, or over the weekend, put them into the pertinent forum on TaxLinked, and I'm sure Benedetto will be happy to take a look and answer your question. So with that said, Benedetto, I really appreciate you being here with us for this past hour and talking to us about the unconscious and dreams and all this very interesting subject. And I hope we get to do this again sometime soon. So Benedetto, thank you very much. Have a great weekend.
Thank you. You're welcome. Thank you to you the same, and to everyone listening.
Excellent. Bye, Benedetto. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Bye.